There's been a lot that's said and done, and if you think that this high-profile, multi-million-dollar case between two very influential celebrities is over, it's not. Because Amber Heard seems hell-bent on making all of it, even the public humiliation, yes, even worse. She is so not over the whole ordeal. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at how Amber Heard was humiliated on live TV again. So let's get right into it, shall we, folks? As you all might be aware, the final verdict of the grueling, nasty, and rather distasteful, because let's face it, both parties didn't hold back from making this court trial a full-fledged pissing contest, 6-week trial between the two Hollywood superstars finally came to a halt when the jury found that Mr. Depp was defamed by Amber Heard in her op-ed for the clause of defamation, and vice versa. One of Johnny Depp's lawyers was found guilty of the same clause, defamation, in the legal proceedings that had taken place. And while it's been proven in the court of law that Johnny Depp was not a cocaine-fueled menace who beat women, suddenly in his 50s, it cannot be disputed that if it's someone whose reputation has truly tarnished, it's the Aquaman star's Ms. Heard. Not only do fans love to hate her, we'll get into that in a bit, there's a lot of negative sentiment about her in the media as well. And not to be ruthless here, but knowing how media vultures are, she should have known better. After the passing of the verdict, she came out with an emotional testimony that expressed how she felt. In the notorious post-trial interview where she was interviewed by Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show at NBC News, Amber Heard is once again becoming the butt of every meme, TikTok, and joke that you may see on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or any other social media platform. And according to PR experts, this interview was a very, very bad idea for Heard. The whole thing had a rather uncomfortable vibe to it, and the interview started right off the bat with a question that was set up to make Amber Heard look bad. When inquired about Mr. Depp's attorney's comment, where Amber Heard supposedly gave the performance of a lifetime when testifying about her ex-husband's abusive behavior, Heard praised Depp's skill as an actor instead of taking the question on herself. She said, sharply, "Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers. I'm the performer?" She ended with disdain. Now some PR experts who were watching the show expressed their concerns for the very emotionally driven reply that in actuality didn't do much for Heard but cement her position as an antagonist in this story. Danny Durrani, an LA-based crisis communications expert, asked how did referring to Depp's acting skills help Heard make her redeeming point? And if we're honest, that makes sense, doesn't it? It just reinforces the negative, memeable sentiment that further encourages trolls to take the mickey out of her. The LA-based communications expert also added how Mr. Depp is also not any of his characters, be it Captain Jack Sparrow. He's also not a cop who's busting a high school drug cartel. With a bit more candor than necessary, he even explained how he was dreading the interview to finish before it even fully commenced. That says a lot, doesn't it? Broadly, experts agree that it was a massive blunder. One of the Herald PR executives said one of the biggest problems with Heard's interview was her absolute lack of self-awareness, that she didn't come across as convincing or credible during the whole process. Out of the 3 claims made in her counter clause against Depp, jurors awarded her with just one win, confirming that Depp defamed her through his lawyer, Adam Waldman. And while that win came with $2 million in compensatory damages, it gave practically $0 in punitive damages. This means that the jurors didn't necessarily believe that Depp was guilty of this endeavor. In contrast, Depp cleared the table with all of his 3 claims against Heard, winning both compensatory and punitive damages on account of winning the case. Instead of owning the loss, she blamed Depp for the sore loss, or more specifically, his social capital, his stealthy legal team, and the patriarchy which favors the man. The Herald executive pointed out how Heard wasn't seen taking any responsibility for the very apparent lapses in her memory, ones that made her testimonies contradict herself, which really swayed public opinion of the entire trial, Engelmeyer said. Not explaining these lapses most likely turned the public against her even more, according to Engelmeyer, because of a lack of accountability doesn't go unnoticed by a crowd ready to lynch you, does it? Eric Desenhall, CEO of Desenhall Resources, a DC-based crisis management firm, actually pointed out how Heard fully has the right to hold her ground. Even if the public may have reacted better to a reflective position, it clearly doesn't seem to be something she believes to be true. The problem comes where she's doing exactly as the general public wants. She split the difference, even when she shouldn't. Since Heard plans to appeal the verdict, according to her attorney Elaine Breedhoft, she'll have to continue pushing the same narrative she had on the stand. That means she can't afford to cede any ground, Desenhall said. I've been doing this for almost 40 years and everybody wants my clients to fall on their sword and say, I'm awful, I really did all this stuff. Desnall continued. Well, what if your position in court is that you didn't do it? The experts who were giving their 2 cents on the matter hypothesized that Heard was too hasty to agree to interview so soon after the verdict on June 1st. Even a rookie knows that going to press without thinking is something an idiot would do, right? Delaney, who has previously represented various Me Too accusers, said it's entirely possible that Heard went against the advice of her publicists in agreeing to do the Guthrie interview. He says that it seemed that she almost went rogue in her pursuit of validation. He said he would not allow his client to pull this pathetic attempt at a publicity stunt. Meanwhile, Heard's hired representatives at Shane Communications has declined to comment on the matter. Another PR mogul, Evan Neerman, CEO of Red Banyan PR, weighed in to second Delaney, agreeing that the interview was a poorly thought-out blunder. His theory is that it was probably something she felt like she had to do. Notice the vernacular here, guys. This was because of her decisive sweeping loss in court, and she deemed this to be a coping mechanism, a way for her to once again reinforce her narrative into the public opinion, said Neerman. It is, however, unlikely to work. She's already getting miserably trolled as we speak. Neerman has said it's pretty unlikely, Heard, at this point, that Heard redeems her reputation and career. Her whole brand is now forever stamped to have the Depp Heard trial label. It's irrecoverable damage, isn't it? And what's worse is that Amber Heard admitted that she absolutely still loves her ex-husband Johnny Depp, the man she snarkily termed as the performer, the same one she accused of abuse. Seems pretty disingenuous, doesn't it? Yes, absolutely, I love him, Heard told NBC News in her first-ever interview after being instructed to pay Johnny Depp, her ex-husband and legal adversary, $10.4 million for defamation. I loved him with all my heart, and I tried the best I could to make a deeply broken relationship work. She expressed of her very toxic marriage. And I couldn't, she told Savannah Guthrie, the host of the Today Show. What followed next was very sly questions that kept ripping on the ex-Aquaman star. She insisted that she doesn't hold any ill will or grudges against Depp, again pulling on the emotional thread, adding that she knows this might be difficult to process, or it might be really easy to understand. If you've ever loved anyone, it should be easy. Are you guys convinced? On the flip side, she admitted that the trial made true to Depp's promise, which he sent via a text message, that she would witness total global humiliation if she proceeded with her accusations. She also admitted that she wasn't the typical cookie-cutter likable victim in the courtroom, which was what led to her losing. She also insisted that the 2018 Washington Post op-ed wasn't about her relationship with Johnny, but it was about leasing her voice of influence to a contemporary cultural discussion, referring to the wave of #MeToo accusations. But now she admits that she's been scarred for life, scared that this will come back to her in more ways than one, and how she takes her next professional step, how she pursues another opportunity, etc. She will be silenced in one way or the other, she says. When asked about her future plans, she says she now plans on being a full-time mom, devoid of legal meetings and lawyer hassles. She also answered when she was asked what she would tell her child about her much-publicized loss. She thinks she did the right thing, standing up for herself and the truth. As I have testified before, and I will stand by until my dying day, I didn't want to cooperate with them. I didn't want this to be out. I didn't want this to be known, she told Guthrie, which is a rather confusing statement if we're honest. It sounds more like a convenient getaway than a stable, objective answer. She also negates the clause that this was all a hoax. She profusely claims that this was not, that she wouldn't have stood up to take the decision that she did, stood up for herself and protect herself, if this was all a scheme. She also addressed an important controversial issue, the tip that TMZ received to film her with bruises on her face. She claimed that it had nothing to do with her or anyone in her close circle. Additionally, she also defended her choice to imply in court that she had willingly donated her $7 million divorce settlement to charity as a philanthropic endeavor, as she had pledged, after Guthrie counter-questioned whether jurors saw the choice as her getting caught in a lie, which she of course negated. It's interesting to know, however, Amber Heard is on her way to become a punchline in the exact same way that Britney Spears became back in 2007. What does this say about society as a whole, though, is the important question. Some people have noted how we, as a society, can't even wait a whole decade to publicly bully someone. And it is only another decade later that people start introspecting with remorse, regret, and empathy out of guilt. If we're to look at this from a moral lens, this can prove to be detrimental to the mental health of the person who is, sadly, the butt of the joke by billions of users online and offline. People like to crap on people. It's as simple as that. And that's all we have for today, folks. We'll see you back here in the next video. Until then, ciao.